The results of the maiden DDC elections, the first democratic exercise after the abrogation of Article 370, are out and have paved a way for the new governance structure bereft of the familiar style of politicking in Jammu and Kashmir. While Bharatiya Janata Party emerged as the single largest party, People's Alliance for Gupkar Declaration, a conglomerate of regional and national parties, bagged 110 seats. Both these political fronts, BJP and PAGD, are savouring victory in one way or the other. While the ruling party is terming it as an icebreaker in the valley, the alliance of adversaries turned allies sees it the people's mandate to reject the August 5 decision. Today, we have with us Mr. Altaf Hussain, a veteran journalist of Kashmir who is going to analyze the poll results in context of Kashmir politics. Among other things, he will deconstruct the current Lotus article political complex in the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir in this Kashmir Observer podcast. The idea to introduce DDC is to revive the systems that were made defunct by the earlier J&K governments. But why did the Panchayati system need a revival in the first place?
Well, this is a good question, but I think the DDC elections that have been just concluded, and we now have the results also. But the point is the importance of these DD elections in the context of the problem in Kashmir, because the BJP government in Delhi, they wanted to get justification or validation for their own narrative as far as Kashmir is concerned, and they started with the DDC elections. Otherwise, we have had these assembly elections long overdue. They are long overdue. But they have those elections have not been held, so they have been delayed for reasons known to the political leaders in Delhi. Otherwise, if there was such a strong commitment to democracy, then assembly elections would have been held long ago. So they chose these DDC elections. What they were up to, that's a different thing. But we'll talk of the importance of these elections in the overall context. So now they are saying a few things. First, that people have participated in the democratic process. After the abrogation of, this is the first election that held in J&K, after the abrogation of Article 370 and bifurcation of the state of J&K. So now, some people are trying to convince us, they are trying to say that the people, by taking part in the democratic process, they have endorsed the abrogation of Article 370, they have supported it by their conduct. Which is not true. So the answer to that is that we have had elections since mid-90s. We had an election in 1989 for the Indian Parliament, and there was total boycott, almost total boycott. But then in mid-90s there was an election to the Assembly, and I saw with my own eyes how people were, how the paramilitary, they knocked on the doors of people and herded them to polling booths. There was coercive voting. That was another phase. But after that, I also saw willing participation of people in large numbers. But then we have to see one thing. This participation of people in elections, I have talked to people, the voters, stood in queues outside the polling booths. They had their own reasons. For instance, a few voters told me once that they wanted their own government in the state, which would act as a buffer between the people and the security forces, and they needed their own administration for the governance of their day-to-day affairs. So they had their own preferences, priorities, but 2008, whatever happened in 2008 and after, that illustrates the point. First, we had the land land agitation here, and which lasted. That was summer unrest first. People in their tens of thousands took to the streets, and same year, in perhaps November, we had elections. I remember when I saw a couple of hundred people outside a polling booth, I thought they had been forcibly brought to the booth. But then they told me they had come of their own volition, so there was no compulsion, no coercion. And the same people again, they were the people who were taking to the streets. We had people in large numbers marching towards the LOC. If you remember, they marched to Uri. They wanted to cross the line of control. That was part of the 2008 agitation. Then the same year we had elections, and people participated in those elections in large numbers. And in 2009 we had another summer unrest, and 2010 we had yet another summer unrest. So who were the people who participated in those protests, and who were the people? It was the same people. And then we had elections in 2014. Within 2 years of those elections, we had a massive these public protests after the death of Burhan Wani. So the point I want to make is that the participation of people in the elections, in the democratic process, does not signify anything as for the people's preferences vis-a-vis the Kashmir question are concerned. They are the people who vote, and they are the people who participate in demonstrations against the Indian rule. So if today they have participated in the elections, that does not signify anything. It's not a shift. It's not at the expense of the separatist sentiment. That's not there. We cannot draw that inference from it. Then, yet another thing. So there has been participation in Kashmir Valley. So the pro-India parties like NC, PDP, they have formed this Gupkar alliance, and they fought on there was only one plank that these people should, that 370 should be restored, and the state should be, this statehood should be restored, and this bifurcation of the state should be undone. People voted, and important thing is that there was no boycott call this time. Yet the people voted, yet it was hardly 30%. In Jammu you had up to 70% polling. In every phase it was above 65 or around 70%. Here it was hardly 33%, like that. Why? Somewhere in the back of the people's mind, this boycott, lack of interest in elections, has become normal. There was participation, but at the same time, we can say it was very little participation. The separatist sentiment is there. And one important thing is that BJP failed to get people's endorsement for its own narrative. They have been making a big thing out of this. They have been celebrating rather that they have opened an account in Kashmir Valley, 3 seats. But they forget that they have not put up the kind of performance they could have in Jammu. Jammu has been a stronghold, first of the Congress party, then of the BJP. And ordinary people in Jammu supported the abrogation of Article 370. But now there is resentment because there are fears in the minds of people that their land will be snatched. So whatever, so the BJP, they didn't vote as overwhelmingly for the BJP as they they were expected to. So BJP has suffered a setback in Jammu region as well. And the Gupkar alliance has won a sizable number of seats. But that does not mean Gupkar alliance has every reason to celebrate, to be happy. But they are still, I would say, irrelevant to the situation. They have not become popular. They have been voted, people have voted for the Gupkar alliance, no doubt. But that doesn't mean they will be calling the shots. They have to redefine their own, they have to find a role for themselves. This time they found a plank, they found a slogan, which they went to the people. Next time, what will they do? Will they convince the people that they are able to have this special status restored? People have been wondering, they have been asking this question. This time, people could be mobilized because of this anti-BJP sentiment. That is strong sentiment in Kashmir Valley, anti-BJP sentiment. You could mobilize, galvanize them on that issue. But beyond that, I don't think the Gupkar alliance has that much popularity or that much influence. Had that been so, we have another one important thing happening here. A large number of independents winning the elections. Why? At whose expense? These seats could have gone to any party in the Gupkar alliance. But independents have managed. This is a setback to the Gupkar alliance. And they have very huge challenges before them, and they have to come. But I think they have not become more relevant than before. They are still less relevant, the Gupkar alliance. People do not expect them to make any difference to the Kashmir question.
But the kind of festivity there is in Gupkar camp right now, where they are celebrating this victory, as if they have set the stage for the restoration of Article 370. As you know, when they were not in a coalition, they had different stances over issues. Now that they have formed this alliance, they share a common goal. But do you think that DDC is the right platform for them to speak about restoration or ask votes for the same?
These two parties, they never established their credentials as votaries of autonomy or self-rule. In 2000, the State Assembly, when Farooq Abdullah was the CM, the Assembly adopted a resolution for restoration of full autonomy to J&K. And that was sent to the central government, and they just threw it through the window. After that, Farooq Abdullah didn't react. And in fact, his own principal secretary, once principal secretary, he wrote in an article that Farooq Abdullah didn't react. So, they and Umar Abdullah last time, they fought the election on telling people that this is for day-to-day governance, not for a resolution of the Kashmir issue. They can't. And ordinary man in Kashmir has now realized that this is an issue. Why you have had no protests here, no public demonstration? Why? Because they know the Indian government has come with its full might to suppress any resistance in Kashmir. And Kashmiris, the people in Kashmir, ordinary people in Kashmir, they understand. That's why you had a blockade here, internet was suspended, telephone service was withdrawn, everything was withdrawn. So people realized if they died, the world outside would not know. So they chose not to die. And now there's a growing realization that this is an issue between India and Pakistan. It's for them to sort it out, resolve it. How? That's for between them. But people here they have not pinned their hopes on the political leadership here. Whether it is the pro-India leadership or anti-India leadership. Ordinary Kashmiri has no hopes with either of them. And as for the Gupkar alliance, they have pinned their hopes on the Supreme Court of India. I was talking to a senior leader only the other day, and they say we have a strong case and we will win. But people across India, in India itself, they have very little faith now in the judicial system because judges are compromised. So now you don't expect justice. I remember a former Supreme Court judge, Markandi Karju, saying the Supreme Court is no longer the temple of justice. But these guys are still, they have pinned their hopes on the Supreme Court. Now tomorrow, if this petition is thrown out, what happens? And they have been saying repeatedly, we don't believe in street demonstrations. We don't want people to be killed. So what is the option with them? They have none. And the only option would be that they go and join the separatist camp. And are they thinking of such an option? They are not ready to answer this question. I have asked them this question. But so ordinary man in Kashmir doesn't have that much faith in the leadership, whether it is the Gupkar Alliance or even the Hurriyat Conference. They know it is the issue is much beyond their, you know, capacity. It's beyond it. So they are waiting. But if they have not reacted today, somebody was telling me about India's the spy, former spy. He says that when Maqbool Butt was hanged in 1984, there was no reaction in Kashmir. But it took them a couple of, say, 5 years or 4 years, and the armed struggle in this campaign began, and we have been living with it for the last 30 years. It's still going on. So that was the reaction, but it was a delayed reaction. People, ordinary people waited. They didn't react immediately. So if after the August 5 decision of the government, there was not any significant reaction in Kashmir, people didn't take to the streets, so that doesn't mean that they have accepted the government of India's decision to scrap Article 370. There is total resentment, and I can say it without any fear of contradiction, that the alienation among people of Kashmir has never been the kind of alienation as it is today. They are alienated from the Indian mainstream as never before. So the BJP has played a gamble, huge gamble. BJP stands to gain whatever has been done in Kashmir. BJP stands. It's not that they will gain or lose in J&K. No, that's not material for any. That's immaterial for BJP, for Congress, for any party. But they use it in the Indian politics, electoral politics. They use Kashmir as a pawn on the political chessboard of India. They go to Bihar, look, we have revoked the Article 370, so vote for us. Even in the US, Narendra Modi as Prime Minister, he talked of this abrogation of Article 370. So it is being used. Kashmir doesn't have a huge population. We send earlier we would say send 5-6 MPs. Now J&K Union Territory will send 5 MPs to Lok Sabha, which has a strength of 543. We have no voice there. So they don't bother about Kashmir. They use Kashmir, whether it is Congress or BJP, both. Both of them have used Kashmir as a pawn on the political chessboard of India. They continue to do that, but saner elements in India are worried. It brings immediate gains to BJP, or earlier it would bring immediate gains to Congress, but it is at the cost of, it's a huge risk. It poses a great danger to India's own integrity, because this alienation, Kashmir is sitting on a powder cake. It's a volcano. It can erupt any time. It may take you unawares. So they are serving their parties but they are not serving India. In the subcontinent, not only in India, in the subcontinent, whether India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, it is the individual comes first, person. Then comes the party, then comes the nation. It should have been the other way around. Had it been the other way around, they would not have done what they have done. It is at grave risk to India, but it brings dividends to BJP. So that is the situation in Kashmir, as I see it.
The way you are explaining the whole picture, that the DDC is not the right platform for PAGD to talk about the question of restoring 370, which is also the agenda of their formation, then what are these DDC elections all about?
It has nothing to do with, I said, as they said, taking democracy to grassroots. Okay, fine. The BJP's game plan was different. Now, if the Gupkar Alliance stayed away from elections, you would have BJP candidates everywhere. Willy-nilly, you had to accept them, like it happened in the Panchayat elections a couple of years ago. Yeah, 8 votes polled in the constituency, 7 going to a particular candidate, and he wins. We had candidates sitting in Jammu and they were winning here because people were not interested at all. So this time they said, if you have BJP everywhere, in the villages, at the grassroots, now you need some favor, you want your application to be favorably addressed in a government department. You had to go to a BJP man for help. He was in charge of everything in your village. So if you had some grievances with the say the electricity department, water works department, any department, so you had to go to the BJP man. He would oblige you, and BJP would prepare its ground for assembly elections. This the Gupkar Alliance saw through the game, and they decided to participate. Otherwise, earlier they had boycotted. This time they said, we are leaving the field open to BJP at grave risk to our own politics. So they chose to to participate, and that is why immediately after that, at that time we had our own doubts, but now I'm getting more and more convinced. It was immediately after that Amit Shah called it Gupkar Gang. So because he didn't want them to participate, perhaps this is the perception, that BJP didn't want the Gupkar Alliance to participate, because BJP wanted to have a cakewalk. They would easily be everywhere because there would be no resistance. Now Gupkar Alliance has resisted that move and defeated that move. It has in fact defeated that move. You have now, BJP is now happy, they are celebrating 3 seats. They are misleading themselves and the people in India. Look, we have for the first time, Kamwal ka phool khil gaya hai Kashmir mein. This is what they have been saying. I heard Shahnawaz Hussain saying this. Hey, we have done a big thing in Kashmir. This is self-deception. Their plans have been defeated in Kashmir. What happens next is a different thing. I told you, Gupkar Alliance is not equal to the challenge. They cannot sort out the Kashmir problem. They can't solve it. It is now more between India and Pakistan to sort it out. But people, if they have not been coming out in the streets, they have been putting up a passive resistance. Nobody has accepted, not a single individual in Kashmir Valley has accepted, except those who are on the now who have become members of the BJP. It happens everywhere. But otherwise, not a single individual has accepted the Indian government's decision to scrap Article 370. There is a passive resistance still going on because they see everything with hatred and contempt. This is the mindset of an average Kashmiri today. India has gained nothing by this BJP's move in Kashmir. India has lost a lot. A lot is at stake. A lot is at risk. And but Mr. Modi and Amit Shah and others, they have perhaps strengthened BJP not in J&K, outside.
So how do you see the future? What is your forecasting about the politics in Kashmir? And especially the mainstream politicians here, who are suddenly feeling emboldened because of the DDC results.
So let's not grudge them this short-lived excitement and jubilation. They have reason to be happy. They feel some kind of relevance. Otherwise, they represented. Look, we had this anti-India politics, pro-India politicians, and in between there was the middle ground. That ground was occupied by the likes of Farooq Abdullah, Mahbub Mufti and others. They were neither for total merger nor for secession. So they were in between the two. Now that ground has disappeared. Now it's pro-India and anti-India. There's nothing in between the two. That's why there's a growing realization and feeling among people that now it is for India and Pakistan to sort it out. How, whether through dialogue or whether through war, we can't say, we can't make any prediction because this is an emotive issue. Kashmiris are a party, India is a party, Pakistan is a party. Because part of it is with India, part of it is with Pakistan, and the people of Kashmir are the suffering part. They are suffering. They are on the receiving end. So the status quo, this can't continue for too long. Something will happen. What? Can't make a prediction. But people, I can speak about the people because I have been interacting them, watching what's the situation. They are not happy. They have not accepted it by any means, by any chance. They are against it and they hate what India has done and they feel cheated. They feel it is a breach of faith, Vishwasghat. And by those who call themselves the devotees of Lord Ram, Ramji went into exile. We had this epic battle of Ramayana. All because he wanted his father to be able to redeem a pledge he had made to his wife, Ramji's stepmother. Here, the same people who are going to build a huge temple to Lord Ram, they are backing out on a written agreement between the Maharaja of Kashmir, Hari Singh, and the Union of India. It was not a promise, it was an agreement reduced to writing. Under the instrument of accession, Maharaja of J&K, he ceded only 3 subjects. He retained his internal sovereignty of the state. That has been taken away unilaterally. Even otherwise, it could not be withdrawn without the consent of the Constituent Assembly, which now doesn't exist at all. But they did it. So, they can get away with it, but people feel cheated. They feel it is a breach of faith. And more so, the people who were holding the flag of India, like Farooq Abdullah, Mahbooba Mufti, they lost hundreds of their workers, party. And in fact, when militancy broke out, this armed struggle began, in armed campaigns, conflict began in J&K. The first man to be shot dead was Muhammad Yusuf Halwai of the National Conference. And now these same people are becoming Deshdrohi. They are enemies of India. So that's how they have been rewarded, and the average Kashmiri feels, now if this is the fate of Farooq Abdullah, and how it would be the fate of an ordinary Kashmiri. So this has further shaken the faith. There is huge trust deficit now. If anybody wishes well to India, he should be very upset with this decision.
My last question. As a veteran who has been an active participant of this vibrant media culture of Kashmir since the 80s now, people are kind of drawing a parallel between 1996 and this election. So how was this election different from that one? Do you see some kind of a pattern where a desperate poll campaign was imposed to gain some kind of legitimacy?
First of all, it's not correct to make a comparison between what happened in 96 and what happened now. We have had elections after 96. I told you in 96 there was coercive polling. People were forcibly taken to the polling booths. I saw it happening before my eyes. And it's on BBC's TV, we have captured it. But then we had the elections when we had the land agitation here in Kashmir. And the same year we had elections in which people participated in large numbers and willingly participated. So there was no coercion, no forcible polling, nothing. Everything was happened. And then we had again elections in 2014. Before that in 2002, when Farooq Abdullah lost and Mufti Saeed came to power. So that was that they allowed democracy to a certain extent. So now this time it has been actually there was more like the Gupkar Islands, they were not allowed to freely campaign. In the name of security, they were confined to certain guest houses or school. So they were put in confinement. But apart from that, it was free. Everybody had an opportunity, and people exercised their right to vote. And there was some apprehension in some people's mind that the whole process will be rigged. But that has not happened. BJP, which has been at the helm of affairs, they tried their best in they used the administration, no doubt about that, but there has not been that massive rigging. So that's why BJP itself has suffered a setback even in Jammu, which has been its own stronghold. They could have done much better. They have taken maximum seats, more than half the number of seats, but they haven't been able to put up a better performance, which was expected of them. So there's no comparison between 96 and now. You could compare it with, say, to other elections. So election as it itself is nothing new. It doesn't make news now. And it doesn't signify anything. I'll repeat on these. It doesn't signify anything. It doesn't mean that now that the people who voted have voted for India or against it. No. They vote. Tomorrow if there's something, the same people will be out in the streets. So their participation does not mean anything.
I think that was quite an interactive session. Thank you, sir, for your valuable time. Although many say that the results of these polls were along the expected lines, especially after PAGD decided to fight against the BJP. However, now the uncertainty lingers over main three things: the post-poll politics in Kashmir, the political status of the mainstream politicians, and validity of the fight over restoration of Article 370.